these are just a kick drum mic stand, man. So just move it around and appropriate it.
Very cool.
It's nice when I have people on that I don't have to tell how to use the mic, because some people are just like.
I've been fortunate enough to do a few, like radio scenarios and stuff.
Yes, sir.
So now I haven't really done. This is only my second podcast.
Did you do one with Chris Thompson?
Yeah, I did one.
Dude,
with Chris
I saw
Thompson.
that and I was like, man, he sniped me. But yeah, he has. I've been on his podcast. He's been on this podcast here in the studio. Shout out to Chris Thompson. And I just saw yesterday that he had you on. He uploaded it. So he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu and owns a martial arts school in Fort Smith.
That's what he was telling me. And I remember back in the day, we used to play, music together, like his group.
Oh, really? Yeah, great.
And so we would do shows with him, and that's how I met him. And I didn't know at that time that he was, involved in martial arts, and then apparently so.
Yeah. It does Taekwondo. As we were just talking about with you. You have a Taekwondo black belt.
Yes.
Nice.
From years ago.
Yes. And I'll introduce you here in a moment for the audience. That's what we were talking about, just different shows I do. So I have the jiu-jitsu show. I've done a couple episodes of that recently where it's like, that way people don't have to suffer through me talking about jiu-jitsu incessantly.
But when you're passionate about it, man, you got to talk about
Somebody was joking on the last podcast. It was me and this other jiu-jitsu black belt who's an insurance guy. And they're like, 17 minutes in, these dudes are already talking about history and insurance. Or 17 seconds in, which is a super, the guy that was commenting has been on the podcast and it's a jiu-jitsu guy. So Natal,
yes,
Eichelberger. Is it have an L in there?
It actually it's Eichel, yes.
Okay.
So it's Eichelberger. Okay. Yeah. Middle name is John,
which is how I know you on Facebook. And then there's some debate on the pronunciation of your
and it actually in Latin it means Christmas and it's pronounced Natale. But what happened as a little kid, teachers would get it confused because it really had an E on it, and so they would say Natalie, and so the other kids would make jokes about it, and kindergarten was kind of rough. Had to know the whole alphabet because my last name's long. yeah. And so I dropped the E eventually, and just I have friends that call me Natal. I have friends that call me Natal.
That's what I've always heard you called, is Natal.
Mm-hmm.
But then I also heard some people that are close to you over the years, or just like mutual acquaintances we had, pronounce it Natal and like remarked on it mentally. Mm-hmm. Just because I've known who you are in past. I've seen you perform a few times. Awesome. So let me throw this way back to when I'm like 11 years old. Dude.
Okay.
I actually talked about this on the podcast with Nathan George, and I was having a hard time recalling all the facts, but is it true that you, in an early inception of First Place, that you played with Sam Valines?
Yes.
Okay, so
yes, absolutely.
You dudes performed at my church one
That's
time.
awesome, man.
Trinity Chapel.
Yes.
It's over there by the hospital in Clarksville. So that's like, I had that memory of you from that time.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, literally, like, I might have been older than 11, but I mean, it was like teenage, maybe,
the early years.
It really was. It really was. And I don't remember a lot about it other than like your name. Like that really was a name that like stuck out in my head. I was like, First Place.
Right.
What? That's a good, it stuck,
That's cool, man.
But
really cool.
Yeah, that was like an early like interaction I had with like live music outside of like, well, you guys were playing at my church, so like
now,
church music.
Had you played prior to that? Like, had you started getting into?
No, but actually, that going to that church is where I got involved. Like Dylan Sparks went there.
Yep.
And we were talking about him the other day, and he is like the first person. Like I had a bass and I wanted to get involved, and he just like one day explained to me. He's like, dude, it's like E, and then it's like F sharp, and then he's like, and there's not a B sharp, and there's not an E sharp, and I was just like, I was like, oh, dude. So then I also was learning acoustic guitar at the same time.
Okay. And
I was learning basic chords, and I was like, okay, so I could watch him, and then like, he's playing a C.
Right.
Like, and that's how I started learning scales on the bass and stuff. And then I stopped playing the bass. I still have one of my oldest basses. I stopped playing the bass for just momentarily, like, and really focused on guitar there, like, because like Dylan had stopped playing guitar, and like they need a guitar player. So like I still play bass, but not anything like I just kind of shifted gears.
Right.
You know? Now I actually pick it up more than I got an acoustic bass recently. So.
Oh, I love acoustic basses.
Acoustic electric. I just replaced the pickups. I got a really a solid deal on it. So
they sound so good, man. I mean,
I've never had one. So
okay.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, especially, when you'll do like acoustic performances. Like a lot of times, the bass player previously, would have like just a regular electric, and it sounds great, but it's just there's something about that earthy.
It blends
sound.
more. Yeah. Have you done a lot of unplugged performances yourself over the years?
We have a lot of times, of course, radio stations will do a couple whatever the singles are, but we've done some at like Hibernia and Little Rock, a few different coffee shops when we were on tour, and they'd have power issues or whatever. Well, we break it down and go acoustic. A lot of fun, and it's a different vibe. Different element. You really get to break down your songs, and people can hear them in a different light. If they're used to hearing the electric versions. I love doing acoustic performances.
Nice. What type of acoustic do you prefer? Do you own?
Actually, I've got two. I've got a Carlo Rebelli 12-string, a Yamaha 12-string, and then I have actually an Ovation 6. So I've got three total, I guess. One more. I've got, it's called a Camaro, and that one, like, I'll keep, we do a lot of stuff out of the key of A, and so of course, my main rig is a 7-string Damien Hellraiser 7, but like, everything will be standard except the low one is in A.
Dude, so if you don't, not to put you on the spot or anything, but like, I just started learning keys and scales, like the theory side. I mean, like, just like, hey, okay, this is the G major, here are the chords down the neck,
right?
And just like going more in depth, and here are the shapes of those scales.
Yes.
What other, like, in the key of A, like, what elaborate on that for the audience and for somebody like me that
okay,
still learning.
Well, basically, say for instance, when you're in a specific key, which you want to cater to, like, say you have a band or whatever, you want to cater to the key that is best for your vocalist too. Well, a lot of vocalists and the styles of music that we've had, it seems like the lower tunings, the lower registers are easier for them to sing to. Of course, a lot of typical music that we're used to hearing, or throughout the ages, has been standard, EAD, GBE. And tune 440. Well, as time goes on, of course, the different artists that you and I have got to grow up listening to over the past, say, 15, 20 years, there are a lot of different tunings.
There really are.
And it's cool because you can experiment with all that too. And say if you get to a point, guitar-wise or instrumentation, to where you're kind of burnt out or not feeling something, maybe you can change the key or change the tuning, and it'll open up a whole new world.
We've like remarked on it with Cora. She has a beautiful voice. She's choir all through school, and then actually she plays.
I didn't know that about her.
Oh, she has a beautiful voice. She won, like, she did a Miss Tech pageant and won vocal talent at that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so she's like, I tell people this all the time. Like, sometimes when she sings, it makes me cry.
That's awesome.
Like it, or gives me goosebumps or something. But yeah, and it's all like, it's just us basically, like, parlor style, like sitting in the living room,
right,
just playing acoustically, because that's how I was big into acoustic, for just kind of like come out of the church scene.
Yeah.
But I had electrics and stuff, but I just recently, over the past couple of years, have got more. I had these Takamine jumbos. I kind of moved away from those, and playing more electric than ever. So and experimenting with different tunings. I play like DAD, GAD.
Right.
But playing with the mandolin has been. I was explaining to you the tuning of that. That's really interesting.
I didn't know that until you told me.
Do you still play with a 7-string?
I play the 7-string is my standard rig, and it basically. When I first got into guitar, I was kind of a late bloomer. I really didn't start till I was 17. And I can tell you the story about how that transpired.
How old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm old. I'm 43.
Put you on the spot. Dude, I'm 32. No, so
I think that you're only as old as you feel, so I try to feel young.
Yeah.
But yeah, at 17 years old, I was really huge into skateboarding, and I had an opportunity to go become semi-professional.
Oh, wow.
And so this company was going to sponsor all my gear, all my clothing, stuff like that. But in order for me to gain revenue, I was going to have to win these competitions. So I would have been up against people like Tony Hawk and that caliber, and I just, at that point in time, I was like, man, that's a lot of pressure. Like I do this because I love it and everything, and yes, I would love to do skateboarding for a living, but about the same time, a friend of mine told me, he said, man, you got to check out this band, because we like music and stuff, but I really didn't play guitar, and I was like, all right. So I was actually at a high school dance, and Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana came on.
Oh, wow. And it changed your life.
And it changed my life forever.
Dude.
It was crazy because it wasn't like, he was the greatest guitarist or anything like that. It was what he was doing was so real and so genuine, and he didn't, care necessarily about what other people thought. I could hear all of that in his voice, and from that moment, I was like, I want to play guitar and start a band, do that for the rest of my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I know. I just like the same sort of nostalgia is what led me to buy that guitar. We were just with that Jags thing in there. So I'm going to, dude, I forgot to let my dogs out, and they're in there. Hopefully that's not distracting you, but I'm going to let them out so they, can bark in the living room closer to the big studio.
So we can hear them.
I'll be right back. Man, he is such a pampered inside dog. We have this new fence, which we built for them.
Okay.
Out back. And he just sits at the gate or tries to dig out.
Really?
He's just like, I should be on the couch.
Let me out.
It's so funny. We just let him back in before you got here, and he just went and laid on the couch, and it's just like, dude. So pampered.
Got it made.
Yeah.
Living in the shade.
So, sorry for the interruption.
Okay.
You got into music. How old were you one more time? 17?
I was 17. Yeah.
Okay,
I remember, Mom and Dad would play, Dad would play the 12 string. Well, he said he'd just beat on it or whatever, and Mom would sing. And so my mom, was like, how you say core is, just a really great singer, beautiful voice. And
is that same 12 string you still have today?
That's the same one.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, sure.
Even better, man.
Yeah.
No one. Okay, I had an uncle that played the mandolin. That's how I got exposed to the mandolin. Honestly, when I was growing up, I never really saw him play too much, or he never explained. But I was interested in the instrument, and I would pick it up when I would go over there, especially in teenage when I was playing guitar and stuff. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of what led me to get I saw a mandolin come up for sale on the marketplace a couple years ago for $65 or something.
Wow.
That little Ibanez on the wall in there. And I was like, oh, let's see what. And, I learned most of the chords are 2-finger chords.
Okay.
And a lot of open stuff.
That's awesome.
And so it's pretty easy. Some of the chords are more difficult and barred, and it's different with your fingers. It's more like Phoebe from Friends would explain, Turkey Claw.
I've never got to really mess with one, but I've always been fascinated by them too. Now there's a really great mandolin player that lives close to us. His name's Mike Parks. I don't know if you've ever heard of Mike Parks.
I don't know.
He's really good, man. Of course, he's been playing ever since I can remember, years ago.
I need to find somebody that knows a few things more. Somebody better than me that's played maybe their whole life or something. Who is it that? My friend Billy Reeder. He's just been on the podcast and does jiu-jitsu and teaches journalism at Tech. He plays the mandolin.
Awesome.
So I might have to get him to jam with me sometime.
Yeah, and then you can teach me because I'd like to learn.
Well, see, now I'm starting to the same way I was explaining to you that I've started breaking down guitar, because I just always, I don't know why, I never probably because I played the bass.
Yeah.
But I never once I started playing guitar and the type of music I probably started playing first, it was a rhythm. I was never the type of guy who was I want to melt your face off with a solo, bro.
I'm the same way.
I was never, but good riffs. I like writing riffs,
Oh, absolutely.
But I was never a lead guy. But the scales, I still wouldn't. I'm just learning them because I just want to know.
Yeah, you want to know.
And it's helped my rhythm playing immensely. Mm-hmm. I've learned some new chords.
Sure will.
In association of different chords in certain keys, and I was just at G major scale. I've spent like 6 weeks learning a lot, and I'm still working on it. I'm still working down with some of the other shapes down the neck.
Okay.
But I've learned so many different chords and associations of chords, and came up with different.
It's one of those things that exponentially, I mean, it'll go on and on. You know what I mean?
I had dreams about it. Like it's like jiu-jitsu or something. It's like just a reoccurring pattern. Mm-hmm. So.
But that was me too. Like I didn't want to be the face melter guy. I have so much admiration and respect for. I mean, there's tremendous guitarists out there in the world that are not even known, and it's for me. I always focused on trying to be the best songwriter that I could be. That was my focus and my drive. Because for me, that one note that's played with the most feeling and emotion is worth more than 50 notes that they're in there, but you don't necessarily feel every one of them. I think that's always been my focus, and we were getting on the 7-string thing, and I forgot to say earlier. So, which
is real interesting.
Yeah,
Dylan is really wanting a 7-string. He said he's always wanted one.
He would love it, man. There's something about him. I mean, of course, Steve Vai was the guy that had that concept or that idea, I guess, when he was with Ibanez. And so Ibanez, to my knowledge and recollection, they were the first.
I just saw somebody selling one of those. I've seen a couple of them recently. They got the handle on the guitar, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was just, I guess, his concept and his design. He thought, well, if I can have one extra string, and of course, in the electric world, which they had 12 strings previously and stuff like that.
Maybe that was a Satriani guitar with the handle.
It could have been,
or was it a Steve Vai? Those guys are connected somehow.
Yeah,
right?
they're connected.
Learn from one another.
I think they learned from one another, and I want to say that either both of them attended Berkeley or like one of those prestigious music schools.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're connected, and they did the G3 tour thing for a long time. It was Petrucci, of course, Steve Vai, and Joe Satriani.
Okay, yeah.
That would have been a cool tour to see. I didn't get to see it, but.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you're usually the guy that's playing the shows, but do you attend a lot of shows?
I love to go to shows. At one period of time, I used to be able to go to like every single local show. You know what I mean? Because I wanted to not only support all the people that were doing what they love to do, but it was just fun to me. And then, of course, as time goes on, and you get busier in life, it's hard to attend every one of those events. And there was a period of time, too, to where the scene was really big, You were talking about First Place earlier. I remember I started on guitar, but I had this group called Slip and Fall, which was like a Christian rap rock metal band, and they wanted me to play bass for them. And I said, well, I don't know how to play bass. They're like, you play guitar, right? And I'm like, yeah. They said, you can play bass. I'm like, okay. But I mean, I would do shows with them, and we'd be playing like Vino's in Little Rock, and I mean, it'd be packed out, like 200.
I've seen a lot of shows people there in the Village, old school. Didn't they tear that down?
Yeah, they tore the Village down. That was a great venue too, man. Definitely missed that. But yeah, I mean, back then, it was not uncommon, and that wouldn't be just for that group that I was in. It'd be several groups. People were just fascinated and passionate, about getting out there and checking out music and supporting something, I think sometimes people forget that every band that we enjoy was a local band at some point in time.
Yeah, for real.
You know what I mean? So support them. But yeah, it was like right after that time, or well, just before then, when I was able to get my first 7-string, I wanted one really bad because there was a couple other bands that obviously heavily influenced me.
Who else are some people that play the 7s?
Korn was the one that started playing that I was really like, I want a 7-string, after I saw them. I think at one point in time, like Meshuggah played 7s, and then they ended up getting like 8 strings or 9.
I saw an 8-string the other day. I was like, the first person I hit up was Dylan. I was like, bro, what about this 8-string, man? He's like, those are cool, dude. Right. I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Yes. So they're Widespread, this band Korn I really like, Widespread band. Their bassist plays a 6-string bass.
That's awesome, man.
And he just like shreds the scales with it, and I'm just phenomenal. Like, which I don't even know what the sixth string is, or if it has the bottom, if it goes, I don't know how it is. If it goes B and then it goes.
I don't know either, really. I haven't really.
I've never
messed with
really.
them.
Yeah.
But that makes me think of too. Have you ever got to hear Victor Wooten?
Oh yes,
phenomenal.
Oh dude, and like, does he play a fretless as well?
Yeah, he's got a fretless.
The fretless bass has such a unique. Intonation.
Yeah.
Just a unique tone. It's different.
It is.
That's why I was telling you that I was interested in maybe picking up a cello and tuning it like a stand-up bass, because it's got the fretless, but without going all in on a fretless bass.
Right.
So
I think that would be very interesting to do that. I wonder too, like, have you ever seen or heard Apocalyptica?
Yeah, yes. Okay.
So
it's been a long time.
Those dudes, let me tell you, if you ever get to go see a show of theirs, go see it, because these guys have cellos, and I mean, they don't just stand there, like, they rock out with the cellos. I'm talking like jumping around and everything, and they have like pedals, different effects pedals and everything. They run them through, and they're some of the most humble, nice, super talented musicians. I highly recommend getting to see Apocalyptica live.
Yeah,
they're really good, man.
Yeah, that's something else that's a bit fascinating me. I know nothing about, and if I picked up a cello, I would not play with the bow,
right? But
like a bowed instrument.
Yeah.
What has got me like about it is Adam Jones.
Yep.
Was first a violinist.
Mm-hmm. Sure was. Yeah, absolutely.
That blows my mind. So the Adam Jones Tom Morello connection blows my mind. How they went to the same high school.
Yeah.
And then one thing I always say, anytime Harvard comes up, like U.S. History 1, we talk about when Harvard was founded, and I'm like, and then this university went on to produce greats like Tom Morello, guitarist
right.
Against the Machine, who was unemployed after he graduated and formed this band.
Exactly. That's
but
right.
It's like the fact that Tom Morello went to and graduated from Harvard is. And couldn't get a job.
Right, exactly. Well, it just goes to show you, I mean, that's not a fail-safe just because we go through an experience like that. We can gain the knowledge and everything, which we should, but it's not a guarantee,
Yeah.
But I think it worked out pretty good for him.
It did, man. So in Rage is back together.
I know, I saw that.
And I wonder if it's going to be like a stint thing like they did before.
I don't know. I'm kind of curious, too, like if they will actually... write a whole new record, or which I hope that they do.
Me too. I would even take another cover album, man.
Yeah, I would too.
Like I remember when I found out. So like the first time I heard Maggie's Farm was them doing it, and then I found out it was a Dylan cover, and I was like, whoa.
Yep, that's right.
But man, so they're going on tour with Pearl Jam.
Are they going out with Pearl Jam?
That's what so the Consequence of Sound and a couple other pages I follow on social media shared an article that had because Pearl Jam is coming out with a new album.
I did hear something about that.
Yes. So like I want to say it's like getting mastered or something like that.
That'll be very nostalgic then to groups that are different but in the same time.
Well, they played like this famous Pink Pop concert back in like 91 or 93 or something like that, where I forget, maybe even Tool was at that festival.
Okay.
But it was just like all the bands played a few songs. It's that one where Eddie Vedder's like out like hanging over the crowd and stuff and jumps out into the crowd. That concert is on YouTube and it is so good.
That is a really good one. We were talking about Tool earlier. What was really cool, I think I mentioned to you, I got to go to Wheat, California and record with Sylvia Massey. She engineered Tool's Undertow record and did Johnny Cash's Greatest Hits, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, the list goes on. Well, what was cool is she shared some footage with me of when they were recording that record. Well, on the Undertow record, at the very end of it, I don't know if you've listened to it or maybe the audience has, but there's like a hidden track thing that seems to go on forever. Well, their original idea and concept is Sylvia and Maynard and the guys thought, what if we were to take like a train and have the train hit the piano and see what
I've
kind of
heard that
sounds we
story.
could create.
Yes.
Well, they couldn't figure out how to do that, and so instead of that, they actually took shotguns and axes to this piano, and she would record the sounds that would come from it as they were doing that, and that's how that hidden track or whatever was made. And I got to see it on video, you know.
Wow.
I mean, it was like really cool to kind of get to see some of that insight that I know it's not footage that was available, you know, to the general public. And also too, like a lot of people may not realize this, but that the album artwork, actually Adam Jones had found that design someplace else, really wanted to utilize it, but I guess the artists would not let them, so he made one. He made one out of metal, and he did all the painting and everything, and he was able to utilize it because it was his own artwork.
Yeah, and it's not with Alex Gray, but with one of the other intermediary artists, maybe who you're talking about, that with like the wrench,
Yep.
and some other things. They've got hung up in some lawsuits over the years for using it too long. Or I mean, it seemed, I did some research on that recently. It seemed like it turned out in the band's favor. But
Yeah, I think so.
I also, what reminded me of that is I've heard Maynard remark, even maybe recently, that he regretted doing that thing to the piano because they destroyed the piano.
I could
And
believe that.
Yeah, he like made some remarks on how because I was like researching hidden tracks, because there's that
Right.
one that's the I think it's on Lateralis, it's the alien phone call.
Yeah.
Right, that's wild. Like,
It is.
I had never heard that, and then my buddy Mike, because dude, here's a unfortunate thing. Like, when I took my first trip through Tool,
Yeah.
there's really no way I could have appreciated. I was like 14 years old. Like,
Right.
Like, and then when I heard it again and I was like really paying attention, I was like, why does Maynard keep talking about Jesus?
Right.
Like, and many other questions.
Oh,
like,
yes.
and Carl Jung, like, why is so much of Tool's work rooted in the psychology,
Yes.
in writings and things in relation to Carl Jung? Fascinating, but I'm kind of a Maynard file. I really that guy's fascinating. He does jujitsu. He's
Yes.
purple belt under Hickson Gracie, who I named my dogs
Okay,
after.
I didn't know that was
Yeah.
his teacher. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I knew that he did that. Well, what was funny too is as I got to watch some of that footage, honestly, he's very comical, quite the cut up. You know, he'd be cracking jokes and you know, running around in the studio with a megaphone and saying, "Over here we have Cheap Trick. This is the Cheap Trick record." You know, just being a goofball.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see that.
He
side
did
of
that at the. Did I tell you this? Maybe at the Tulsa show, which I've seen a Perfect Circle and Tool one other time, and Maynard like would not show himself.
Yeah.
and then he addressed the crowd twice at a Perfect Circle, and I was like, "Did you guys hear he talked to
Yeah,
us?
like
He
I
talked
feel
to
special,
us."
right?
You know, and then at this show, he was like standing out in the light damn near the whole show, like acting goofy on stage, like sitting on the corner, because they had these, like Danny Carey was in the middle, and then they had these two platforms.
Okay.
And Danny Carey came out and opened the intermission with this gigantic gong.
Nice.
You ever seen Roger Waters hit the gong and Pink Floyd?
Yes.
Like, eat your heart out, Roger. Like, Danny's here.
That's epic, man.
Like it zooms in on him, and he's just got like this, like big, like whatever you hit like a bass drum with, like the big pad on it.
Wow.
And then he would get it making a sound. Then he would like put that down, and he would get these smaller sticks.
Okay.
And he's doing all these crazy. I've never heard those types of sounds, and I didn't know what it was, but he had this arch over his kit.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that? And he was playing that on Invincible.
Oh wow.
He was like what is it, like a xylophone?
Yeah,
but
like
it's kind of like that type of instrument.
Wow.
But that was the solo too. That was like Chocolate Chip Trip.
Really?
Yeah, so they did Chocolate Chip
That's
Trip
pretty
live to
incredible.
open the encore.
That's awesome, man.
But it was wild. I've
I
never
bet.
seen anything like it.
I haven't got to see since they've done, you know, Fear Inoculum. I haven't got, and I've been wanting to. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if there's I assume there's a video out there of it.
Right.
But there might not be, but they played. Have you heard the new album much?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I love it.
they played. They didn't play Cohen Voices.
Okay,
They didn't play The Tempest.
all right.
But I think they played Chocolate Chip Trip. They played Numa. They played Invincible. They played Fear Inoculum.
Okay.
So I was into it too.
I bet,
it was
man.
good, particularly the new stuff. I will say, I mean, not like in no way any but they kind of messed up on the pot, and I was like, all right, you dudes are human.
Yes, last year I got to experience them at Verizon, and I mean that was the closest I had been. I was like third row, and I remember seeing them mess up. It wasn't the pot; it was. It's like Schism or something. I can't remember which song specifically, but I was like, oh, they are human.
This is never. I recently saw the North Mississippi All Stars.
Very cool.
And during the performance, they were doing like a Cody Dickinson and Friends or Luther Dickinson. They were doing like some sort of weird sit-in combinations of solo stuff from each of the guys, a combination, and Luther's guitar came unplugged, like while he was playing and singing, and I was like, I've never seen that happen before. And the style of music that they had, that like it just like it when that stopped, it was just like it was an odd thing. I'd never seen anything
I'll
like
hit
that.
really close to home with that. So Luther, his old guitar tech, was my guitar tech.
Oh wow, great! Yeah, because how far away are they?
Oh gosh, they're not very far. I don't think. Like maybe 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah,
if that.
You know. So you ever heard of a band called Beanland?
Mm-mm.
This would have been the band that you could argue in some way, like sort of mentored the Dickinson brothers.
Really?
Beanland was a derivative sort of spin-off of Widespread Panic.
Oh, wow.
The keyboard player, Widespread Panic, was in the band, and he may have been the only member of Panic in the band, but here's where it gets... Panic's original guitar player died.
Okay.
Michael Hauser in 2002, I believe. 1 or 2. Oh, man. Like at the height of Widespread Panic. Well, they replaced him first with this guy named George McConnell. And George McConnell was the guitar player of Beanland. I pieced all this together through watching a Beanland documentary.
Okay.
That the Dickinson brothers were in, like watching them practice.
Really?
Yeah. So I was like, and like jamming with them too. So I was like, man, that's it. And if I do a PhD, these connections will probably be what I write it over. There's a guy in Arkansas just did an 800-page dissertation for his PhD about the drive-by truckers. But It's like Dave Schools of Widespread Panic bought the drive-by truckers their first tour bus.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, I found that out at a live concert watching, what's his name, Jason Isbell, who used to be in the Truckers, and he's like, they opened for Panic at my birthday show. That's these two concerts right here.
That's awesome.
And he's just like, Jason Isbell just said that off the cuff, and it's like, Dave Schools bought our first tour bus, and I researched it, and then Schools, they paid him back like $5,000 or something. Like it took him forever, and Schools donated to charity.
That's awesome, man. Very
it really
cool.
was. It really was.
That is fascinating. And that's what's crazy too. Like as time goes on, you know, as I started getting involved heavier in music, I really tried to focus on the business side too, you know, because that's something I wanted to do. And I found out it's very tight knit and it's very small. You know what I mean? It's not as big. Yeah, it's a community. It's not as big as you know, people might think. Oh well, you know, it's going to be impossible to get a hold of this guy or that guy or whatever. No, if they know about you, they know about you. You know, and so it's like hopefully it's on the good note. If it's on the bad note, then you know it's going to hurt your career pretty quick. So I've always found that fascinating as well too, man.
Yeah, well, too, this has been fascinating to me. It's because, like, with Tool, for example, they just now am I able to listen to Tool in the gym because they are on digital streaming,
right?
Which is great.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like, you know, and I could have bought digitally all the albums and then it compiled, but that's not all in the same location as the gym playlist. So
right
now I intersperse like my favorite 20 Tool songs with like a bunch of Rage songs, and made a playlist that I like to listen to at the gym, you know?
Yeah.
And I have the opportunity to do that by paying Spotify, but that shift from like probably when you got into music to now how the digital is taking up, because Tool holds the top 10 spots on like all digital streaming right now.
Yeah.
For one song or another. Take your
true.
pick. But it's like they think about that's like them investing in Yahoo, man. Like before it was big.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
I'm like, you guys, like, did you do that on purpose? Did you wait until the latest possible and negotiate the best possible deal? Because not only that, but I mean, like all the memes and funny posts I saw on social media about like Tool's finally on digital streaming and the new album all at the same time.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, they're extremely intelligent. It had to be strategically placed that way.
Yeah.
Just knowing the little bit that I know about them, you know, they seem to have that side of things together too. Not only are they able to do what they do musically, but they're smart about it.
Well, and Maynard jokes about that, like he's not the. I feel like he's the dude calling the committee meetings,
right?
You know, but I could be wrong about that, because I once heard him say something that like. It stuck with me it was applicable to my mindset, but he's like, and I struggle with this, but he's like, so people are like, how do you do so much stuff? And I was like, I do a lot of stuff, and sometimes I'm totally inefficient because I'm doing too much.
Right.
And he's just like, well, it's all logistics. I spend all my time on logistics so I don't get in my own way. So when it's time to do something, the logistics are already done. So the activity of doing and creating, recording, going on tour, making wine out of these grapes, growing the grapes, whatever it is, the work has already been done a long time ago.
Yeah.
And he's like, logistics, it's all logistics. And I was just like, oh, but he kind of in some recent interviews, like on Joe Rogan and stuff, he was talking shit about, it's like, yeah, why is it taking so long for there to be a Tool album? He's like, oh, it's committee meetings and stuff like that, you know? And I'm just like, I just don't really picture like Adam Jones and Danny Carey and Justin Chancellor lead it being like, guys, we need to sit down and have a serious talk.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably do. I don't know. Because I will say, like, those are three real interesting dudes.
Yes.
Outside of Maynard.
Yep, that is true. Well, I think, you know, it wouldn't be Tool without all those dudes. I mean, and I know they had a different bass player, you know, when they first started.
Diamore.
Yeah, they had Paul Diamore, but if anybody could have came in and fit, you know, the puzzle piece, it was definitely Justin.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it really,
I mean, honestly, other than like just the overall evolution of their sound, I don't really notice like I can't be like, that's a different bass player.
Right.
On this album.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, when I see Harry Potter #3, I'm like, that's a new Dumbledore.
Right,
like,
exactly.
And he's better.
Yeah.
You know, but, and I will say, like, because, you know, their sound has changed over time,
Sure.
like Undertow, and we did a Music Unraveled just reviewing their very first EP. It was like it's Satan on the keypad.
Yeah.
Allegedly. It's like 72835 or something. It's like
okay.
Numbers is the name of the album, but it's just cuts of the first two albums.
Okay.
Really.
All right.
But they uploaded that on like YouTube and stuff all at the same time that all this digital music came out.
Wow.
So. Do you have digital? Are you out there on Spotify?
Yeah, actually, the new single that I just released. It was 2 weeks ago. It's on all the streaming platforms.
Okay, let's. I would like to try and listen to that before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I did email it to you, but
yes.
Anyways, like how that came about, you know, I've still got the From Day One, Dark From Day One stuff going on.
Exactly.
We'll write material for that as well. But some friends of mine had really encouraged me to do a solo record because I have a compilation of different songs that I've done throughout the years and never necessarily, you know, put them down on wax or, you know, recorded them. And so I kind of thought that it was narcissistic, so that's why I didn't do it for a long time. But my friends were like, no, dude, that's like doing part of what you do. And these are some great songs, you know, you should release them. So I thought, well, it'll be cool. I can incorporate other musicians, you know what I mean, to showcase their talent and what they do. And since I'm not the greatest singer, which I will sing on 2 of the tracks on the final record, but I thought, man, I'm going to get different guest vocalists. I'm going to have a different guest bass player, different drummer, you know, on all these different songs. And so
that's cool.
It'll be released. The full record I'll release for 2020. And
it's my birthday.
Is it really?
Yes.
That's a great day already.
420 Fest.
There we go.
Yes.
Great day already, man. So, and it'll be titled Shekinah or Shekinah, which means light. So
The Blind Side.
Yeah.
They had a track. Did they have a track titled that?
They might have.
No, they have a different word.
Yeah, they
is that a Swedish word?
It's actually a Greek, from my understanding.
Okay, yeah, Shekinah, or I've heard a word similar to that.
Pronunciations.
Yeah.
But so that's what
cool.
I'm titling the record, and I'll release the next single on 12/12 of 19. So the first one featured my good friend and co-band member Luke Shoemaker. He did the vocals on that one, and the second one, which of course I'll give you a sneak peek. It features Dustin King, and he's in a band called Diamondback. I think the third and last one that I'll release before the record will feature Devin from a band called The Veil. But yeah, it's been a fun experience, you know, just getting to interact and co-write music with some of these other musicians that I've never really got to sit down with.
Is this unlike stylistically, would you say, other things you've done? Is this its own standalone? Is it within the same genre? Like, how would you?
I would classify it within the same genre. I think maybe it's a little more orchestrated than some of the previous stuff that I would do, you know, as far as From Day One or Dark from Day One. I'm one of those guys that I'm big on, you know, like synth sounds and
Nice.
all kinds of different elements. And so I think when you hear most of the record, and if you were to listen to some of the other stuff that I've done previously, of course there's going to be similarities.
Yes.
But it'll be a little bit more on the orchestrated side.
Are any of your tracks on the album purely instrumental?
I don't have a full instrumental on it as of now. I do have some instrumental songs, and I'll just have to decide also with the producer, you know, like, hey, what do you think? Should we put this instrumental one on there, you know? Because it's good to have an outside ear and perspective, because, you know, they're your babies, and it's like you've got to have somebody, because we love all our babies, but some of them aren't quite developed yet and ready to come out. So that's where a producer comes in and kind of helps. Which I've got Robin Nagy of Horizon Studios. He's producing the record, and we're good friends, and he's played a lot on it. So
nice. Where are they out of?
Maumelle.
Maumelle, okay.
Yeah,
that's a nice little town.
Yeah,
you know, like once you get off, because kind of off the exits.
Yeah,
there, but it's a nice little community.
Yeah.
I've driven through there a few times and remarked, I was like, man, I didn't know it's kind of like a suburb of Little Rock.
It
really
is.
It
Absolutely.
Really is.
Yeah, at 19, that's where I used to go for slip and fall practice.
Okay.
Back in the day.
It's not even an hour to get there. Like 45 minutes,
no,
maybe.
It's not bad at all, man. Yep, very, very close to home. And, you know, like there's several different places, studios. I've had a lot of friends over the year. I mean, I've got my own little studio too, and I can do the pre-production there if I want, you know, and then send over the files and we can work with them. But I'm trying to have the overall sound of everything consistent. So I'll probably, for this record, you know, do everything there. A buddy of mine the other day said, why don't you do another one after that? And I was like, well, I might, because I have all these relationships and friendships with different musicians that I won't be able to have on this record, but would love to have their talent showcased as well.
Man, you know what's interesting is the guy who ultimately ended up in Widespread Panic, this dude named Jimmy Herring, but he was a guitar player for the Allman Brothers for a year, for the
Really?
Dead, and it was just called the Dead.
Okay.
It was before John Mayer started playing, but that Inception, earlier, like 2004 Inception. But then he learned all of Panic's original music.
Wow.
And he played with this other band called the Aquarium Rescue Unit with Bruce Hampton. You ever
I think I've heard that name.
Colonel Bruce.
Yeah.
So they had an album called Arkansas. But Jimmy now, he's even on tour right now, does exactly what you're talking about.
Really?
And like, people are unsure. It's like, is this a band?
Like, what is this?
Jimmy Herring? Because Jimmy, all he ever does is play guitar, but he surrounds himself with all of these great musicians, and he kind of. What's interesting about this band they have now, the Invisible Whip up there is a version that was all instrumental. But this band that he's playing with now is called 5 of 7, and they have one of their guitar players sings. And it's like all of the people in the band are different people who had the same mentor, Bruce Hampton, at different times. Like, some of the members are young, and Jimmy's probably the oldest member. Like, I think he's 58 years old or something. But Bruce Hampton died at 70 years old playing on stage with like Derek and Susan Tedeschi and Derek Trucks, and
Really?
John Popper was shredding a harmonica solo when Bruce Hampton
kick-ass.
had a stroke
That's
and
awesome.
died.
Oh my gosh.
At his birthday party.
Whoa.
70 years old.
man.
But crazy, but Jimmy Herring, he does like what you're talking about. He surrounds himself with these great instrumentalists and other just musicians, and I'm never really sure how to describe. I'm like, is it Jimmy Herring? Or
is it a band?
is it 5 of 7? Or is it an Invisible Whip? But he's done things like that, and it's different groups of people, but he's kind of the guy holding it all together.
Yeah.
He's the glue.
The glue.
And everything kind of forms around his guitar work in a way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He never sings. He's not a front man,
Right.
You know. But I've never heard him sing. But I'm sure he can.
Oh yeah, he's probably got the capability. It's just not something that he wants to showcase as much, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, that's how that kind of came about, and so I'm sure I'll end up probably doing another record, but I'm in no rush as far as that goes. A lot of these songs I've already had, written previously. There's a few that will go on the record that aren't completed. That some other people have some concepts. I can tell you what my greatest musical experience or whatever is. It's pretty. I don't know how much time.
No, we've got plenty of time. I didn't say that earlier because we were needing to like wrap it up or anything. I just wanted to like maybe at the end of the podcast we'll listen to your single and just like hear your commentary on it.
Okay.
And I'll get to hear it. I listened to it the other day, but was that a YouTube link you sent me?
I can't remember if I sent you. We do have the YouTube link.
Okay, that I can cast that up to the TV here in a moment, but we'll do that later. But no, we got. We'll wrap up here in a bit, but I don't need to get to the gym for a while, so
okay.
Yeah.
So my greatest musical experience. We were fortunate enough whenever I started Dark from Day One back in 2006. As time went on, we were able to build more relationships and connections, You
guys got really big.
Yeah, it started going really great. And I remember probably my greatest musical experience in 2011. So we're opening up the whole show, and we've got like Avenged Sevenfold, 3 Days Grace, Seven Dust, Skillet, Hailstorm. I mean, the list goes on and on. Well, when we took the stage, there were already 20,000 people in attendance. And when you look out and you see that sea of people and like the first, couple hundred are singing your songs, you're like, man, can I just do this every day for the rest of my life? Well, that was epic enough in itself. But here's the reason why I do this. So after we perform and everything, of course, we go and meet people and take pictures or do whatever, because it truly is, about the fans, you'll hear bands say that and stuff, but for us personally, that's why we do it. So this guy comes up to me, he says, "Hey man, you ever get any strange requests?" And I'm like, "Sure." He said, "Would you come sign my son's shoe?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I go over to where they have a barricade, and here is this man's son. He's probably 21, 22 years old. Can't move from the neck down. Can't really hardly talk. But when I went to go sign his shoe, it was like he wanted to get up and walk. And it's not that I'm anybody, but it meant that much to him that somebody would take time out that he just saw up on stage, to him was a rock star, which I'm not, but that meant the most in the world to me. So if I can do something that has that kind of impact on a person in a positive way, then that's like finding the Holy Grail, what I mean?
Yeah, you're making ripples, man.
That's it.
Just like kind of how we started off talking. It's like when you're playing at my church, like that made a ripple. Like
that's awesome.
And then like when you guys were around that same time, like it really climbing this ladder of success, or like however you want to categorize that. That's like when I was just hearing about you guys all the time, seeing about you all the time. That and I was like, yeah, I know who that is, because
like,
when I was like 13 years old, he came, right. But that's like I kind of always kind of knew who you were, even though like we never really ran into each other too much. Even though I did, I don't think we worked in the same shift or anything. I did work at Walmart DC for like a year back in like 2007 or something like that.
Yeah, I was still there in 2007.
So, are you there now? Do you work there?
No,
wow.
I'm not there anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, in 2011 we got our first big tour opportunity, and so I had actually told the manager, I was like, I've got to be gone for a couple months, I'd still like to work here, and so on and so forth. And he said, well, if I let you off, then I've got to let this guy from welding school, and I'm like, but dude, this is different, you know what I mean? Like, not everybody gets this opportunity, so I had to make the hard choice, and so I did, and then we toured, and I wouldn't change it, for the world. Got to do a lot of stuff. I think we played in almost every state except Alaska and Hawaii, so I've seen most of the United States, and it was a great experience.
Dude, if Bernie's elected, he will make Walmart let you off for the tour.
Oh yeah. At that one time,
Bernie was in Arkansas a few weeks back at Walmart headquarters talking shit about how much they pay their workers.
Really? That's epic. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's funny.
That is funny.
But just a political joke. We're not partisan on this podcast.
Right.
That's so you guys opened for a ton of big people over the years. Like, what are did you guys open for Slipknot one time? Yes.
It's
list goes on.
The list goes on and on. I mean, probably for me personally, out of the rock genre bands over the past several years, I mean, there's some older ones too that I would love to have the honor to open up for them, but I think the only two that we haven't necessarily got to open for is Alice in Chains and Tool. And those, we almost this summer had the Alice in Chains one.
My friend Mike, Mike Page?
Yeah,
he used to live in Clarksville forever. He moved to Northwest Arkansas. He's one of the owners of Inferno.
Okay.
But he's from Clarksville. He just saw Alice in Chains the other night.
Really?
He said he was like bawling like a baby towards it because they played so many nostalgic hits.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we had I guess it was last September, we did a record label showcase, and the group, we ended up signing with this guy named John Tovar. He used to be Marilyn Manson's ex-manager. So he had some stuff situated for us, and of course we were super excited because it was looking very promising. Well, when it came down to the wire of it, the promotional company decided that they wanted us to front the cash to get our plane tickets over there, and we were like, that wasn't the original deal, man. Like, that was not the deal.
I mean, if nothing else, you just don't want to go out of pocket, right? I mean,
absolutely.
I feel the same way. Like with like teaching seminars and stuff in martial arts, I'm like, look, just don't make me go out of pocket $300 for a hotel or travel or anything.
Exactly. And it was hard to not necessarily do that because, I mean, that was definitely a bucket list band for me to be able to open for Alice in Chains. Not only that, but I've never been to Russia, and we were going to play in Moscow and St. Petersburg. Ooh. And they were both stadium shows, like one held 5,000, the other one holds like 8,000 people. So, I mean, it was one of those things that it was very tough, but in the end, we, since that we were going to have to go out of pocket, we had to turn it down. But anyways, on the ones that we have open for, Rob Zombie, Korn, 3 Days Grace, Five Finger Death Punch. I mean, honestly, honestly, the list really does go on, and we've been fortunate enough to do that. And it was mainly festival events, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not like we went out with every single one of those bands, you know, out on tour.
Have you ever done any like tour stints with any of these bands we're talking about?
Always one-offs, you know. We've done a lot of one-offs with them. Now we've toured and headlined our own, you know, tours.
Yeah.
And that was something too. I mean, you know, as the business had changed and everything, the economy changed, we did have some good opportunities to go out on some major tours, but you know, it's pay to play. It's buy on, so much of it nowadays.
That's like, it's funny. People occasionally will talk to me about like, dude, so there's probably no telling how much money you have spent on music.
Oh, gosh.
It's spent is a bad word. Invested.
Yes.
Because, I mean, just like, I got my little collection in there we looked at, but it's like, I'm sure your collection is hats off.
Oh,
right?
thanks.
But like martial arts people would be like, man, you know, I've spent money on this tournament, and this is my gym membership, and you know, like I want to go to these seminars, and I'm like, dude, I know, man, because I got like a mortgage for the gym,
right,
and utilities,
yep.
and these mats cost like $10,000, and I got to get new ones because you guys wore those out, and I was just like, I loved it so much, I like invested like hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years.
Absolutely.
But that's what you do for your passion, and
right.
hopefully it pays off monetarily speaking.
Yes.
And it doesn't always. Like I've had some financial failures.
I think we all have.
There's this guy, Naval Ravikant, this Indian thinker, business guru, and he was on Joe Rogan's side, but he's just like, I've like, first time I made a bunch of money, I lost it this way.
Yeah.
You know, and then the second and third time, this guy's like one of the primary investors in like Twitter and Uber.
Oh, wow.
You know, so it's like he's good. He's
yeah.
set. But to hear people like him or Gary Vaynerchuk, people that are like, you know, in our minds are at the pinnacle, but we don't we didn't see their struggle to get there. They just popped up on our radar and we're like, hey, they're at the pinnacle. Let's listen to them. It's very interesting, but
and that is true, man. I think that we go through a lot of failures like that, and we may not see those others, but they probably went through a lot of them before they had that one that went through the way they wanted it to.
Yeah.
And so you're right. We do see them at the pinnacle, but we didn't see all the failures.
So, and you're still with Day One? You just go by, is you kind of shorten the name, just Day One?
Well, what happened is at that point in time, when we were doing the last record, there were a lot of radio stations that thought because of the dark that we were like a super deathcore band. And so like the program directors wouldn't even take a listen to what we had. Well, we're not necessarily a dark band, you know. It's just where I came up with the concept and the name and all that, which I don't know if you knew did you know the concept of it?
I don't think so.
So I was reading this interview, a guy named Scooter Ward. He's the front man of a band called Cold. I don't know if you ever heard Cold.
Yeah, they play with some different tunings.
Oh, yeah, a lot of them.
What was their original guitar player's name? Didn't he go on and play with Evanescence or something like that?
God, now I can't think of his name.
It's on the tip of my tongue too, man.
Starts with a T. I'll think of it here in a minute.
I'll Google it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So basically, Scooter was talking in this interview. His sister had got diagnosed with cancer, and at the end of it, he said, so we were in the dark from day one. So I thought, I was like, that would be an amazing band name. So in the beginning, we're born to this earth innocent, not knowing the pressures of stress, nor the evils that humanity is capable of. Our only hope is that our life will never be anything short of extraordinary. Therefore, we are in the dark from day one.
Oh, dude,
So that's how I came.
I like that. Terry Balsamo.
That's it.
Terry Balsamo. It was on the tip of my tongue too. I was like, Troy, Tony. Yeah. That's I like that. I like stuff that, man.
So that's how I came up with the concept and the idea, and you know, because of like wanting to go, you know, further musically in that direction or that realm to where we could do it for a living, the manager said, why don't you just drop the dark and just be from day one? That was very tough to do because I didn't want people to get confused, you know what I mean? but at that time, that's what we had went with, and it's still that as of right now. But,
yeah.
You know,
okay.
We'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, I think it plays.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, because probably people probably shortened your name.
Yeah.
In variations of like saying it to their bros. Like,
oh, sure.
Hey, you going to the
yeah.
Didn't you guys have some, yeah.
DD1 or DFDO or
yeah.
A lot of different abbreviations. So, but yeah, man. I mean, honestly, if I was to die tomorrow, I've got to live a lot of my dream. I really have. I still have goals and a lot of things I want to accomplish. You know, even outside musically. You know, just personally, and but it really has been phenomenal.
Yeah, well, I mean, you followed your passion up to this point, so that's a well-lived life. That concept of where you got your name too is such a universal as well, like the tabula rasa, the blank slate that we are born into, and too, like I said this to one of my history students earlier. They're very idealistic, and I am too, man. I honestly, as somebody that likes to do the things I do. But he's making a point about like we're talking about Civil War, and he's just like talking about kind of concepts of good and evil, and I was just like, dude, explain to me any supernatural evil that we've talked about in this.
Right.
I was like, the evil has only existed from this person to this person, and from this ideology to this ideology, and this politician to this politician, and this president of this Confederate States, and this, you know, and I was just like, you know, and I was like, so maybe some people have. I was like, but we're talking about evil that's only manifested itself through the endeavors and activities of one human being to another.
Yes.
And that is something entirely unavoidable.
Yes.
Unless you are another avenue you go down in philosophy is like, so you're on a desert island and there's no one there ever, and you were born into that.
Right.
What ideas do you have about is there somebody else like you?
Right.
And then where did you come from? And it's like trying to take the parents out of the equation of like knowing that you came from a mom and a dad. It's fascinating. You see that in like a lot of ancient history, but yeah, that's the concept of evil kind of coming in, and or the concept of being in the dark. There's this book I've been reading called it's about the Caesar creating the Messiah.
Oh, wow.
To pacify the Jews.
Whoa.
And other cults, because everybody was doing their own thing. But I'm not saying that that's a thing, but it's an there's a book written about it, and it's interesting. I was listening to the audiobook on the way home. And I've been exposed to this thesis for a while, but I was just like, man, and they were trying to do that to kind of quell, because Jesus is such a pacifist.
Right.
Trying to quell all the religious fighting.
Yeah.
That existed in the Roman Empire. And I was like, that's fascinating. Because this is like Jesus comes around in the reign of the first emperor,
right?
Augustus, Octavian, and then Tiberius later, the second emperor. So, but there was cult to the emperor. There were all these religious mystery cults, and
right?
Messiahs, and but Jesus, J-Man came out on top.
Yeah,
let's be real, dude.
Oh yeah.
Maynard's talking about him all the time,
right? Well, that is fascinating, and you think about it, just all the questions and the things that we don't necessarily understand. I almost think that would be what it would be like to be godly, or say, that we use such a small percentage of our brain's capacity, right? So I think if we were able to use, say, a larger percentage, like maybe 50% or whatever, telepathically we could do things. We could probably fly.
Well, and just think about like the outliers of the people we've seen, and to know that they're only probably like a percentage point away from us or something, like Einstein or something. It's like I don't think that like it's like geniuses, prodigies, whatever you want to talk about them, like they're high functioning, they're above average, extraordinary, whatever you want to call it. But it's like maybe they're only this far away, and versus a spectrum that goes on infinitum.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it would be incredible to be able to to see us utilize the full capacity, of our brains. I know you've heard like placebo theories and all this stuff, like where people would take, a water pill because they had a headache, but then automatically their headache's better. So
that's always been fascinating to me. Placebo studies. I had a sociology professor on recently, and I've been doing, but the statistics side of sociology and in dealing with, I think it would interest me. When I took logic, it really altered the way I worked with information and patterns. And I'm wondering if the stats class wouldn't do something similar. Yeah. Of how just like constantly taking something and thinking about it critically in a way that you're like, for example, I just did the Civil War, and every battle I had stats on. Like, this many people died. Mm-hmm. This many total people were killed in the whole Civil War. This 52,000 people at Gettysburg. 1,300 people died in this charge. Wow. But, so it's like we think about it, but like stats can really imply some different things. Like, absolutely. Stats, I don't know. I've been fascinated with stats as a philosophical concept, really. Just like, let's understand society through talking about these statistics. Right. As a social scientist myself, like it's interesting. Mm-hmm. So like what's in store for the future, man? Other than like we've talked about some solo endeavors, which I would just definitely say just keep doing it, dude. Thanks, man. Honestly, not like you need encouraging from me, but I love creating stuff. Like we're creating this podcast. That's right now. Like honestly, like if I don't get to go do that, I'm less fulfilled. Whatever it is, a YouTube video for the gym, lecturing it to my students at the university, teaching a class tonight, whatever it is. Yeah, any form of creativity, like you said, we would not be as fulfilled if we're not able to create. I believe we were designed to create in several different facets. So. For me, of course, heavily with the band stuff as well. I'm one of those people that I love to obviously spend as much time as I can, with the family, and try to have a balance. And that's the thing with life, as crazy busy as it is, we have to find that balance. And if not, we won't be as happy. So, I would just say working more so on the balance and some other things that I'd like to do. I've actually thought about getting back into martial arts. Next, at the new gym we're moving to, first off, we'll have maybe not as many adult martial arts classes like the ones I teach, but some classes will occur at the same time as the kids' classes. Or that new studio I was telling you about, like that's gonna have like, hey, dude, you just want to go play the guitar in there? Like, well. Whatever black belt team's going on, or you got here early or something. Because that's, I like having the studio here at the house, and I record some at my office, and I have some audio set up there for like lectures and stuff. Okay. But honestly, I think it's going to be good having that space. It's neutral. Yeah. Like, dude, you're definitely like, I don't mind having people out here at all. I like it. But I think some people would prefer a neutral location in town. Because we're a little off the periphery here. I mean, it's really like less than 10 minutes from the gym, but the new location's right off the interstate. It's twice as large. I've got this space that's 3 times the size of this appropriated. That's awesome, man. Very cool. Well, and it'll be like, I was at board I was talking to you about, like I'm looking forward to being able to be like, hey, could we have you in and do a performance after the podcast? Yep. And we're going to try and do one of those a month. And Dylan is kind of going to help me spearhead things. He's going to produce it. Very cool. So that's kind of my first step of like, I remember when we got this guy to start filming for us, for the gym's YouTube, and it's grown, right? It's just that subtle little shift in production. That's it. It can make a huge difference. I think so too. And it'd be good content for you or whoever else. I'm gonna try and have Adam Fawcett on. I just had a buddy of his on, and I'm probably gonna try and get both of them to come on. Neil Harrington, he's a local artist, musician. I've heard, I know of the name. So I'm gonna try and get those guys to come back on. I just like sitting down. Somebody's texted me, was on the podcast recently. He's like, man, I interrupted you. I was like, dude, I interrupted you like 48 times. Like, it's all good, bro. I was like, dude, I actually started. One of the main reasons, like the art of conversation is like, Like, when do you sit down? I mean, maybe you do, like, not to make assumptions.
Right.
But, like, sitting down and doing what we're doing right now is kind of a lost thing.
You're right. Absolutely. It's sad that...
I walked out of my office the other day, and there was half a dozen students out in the halls, and none of them were talking to each other. They were all on their phone.
Phones, I know.
And I'm guilty of that, too.
I think we all are, but when we come to that realization, then we need to actually take action and then step away and like, hey... what's going on, and have conversations with people. You're right. It is something that I see very prevalent now, and it's sad. We need to change that, but it's going to take all of us,
it will.
Conscious.
It will.
Yeah.
Is there anything we need to do or say to make this better than Chris Thompson's podcast? I'm just kidding. Well, let me... where can I find, without going to my email, where can I find...
on YouTube, you can just type in Natal John featuring Luke Shoemaker. Now, if you type in just Natal John, it'll pop up like John Lennon and a bunch of different Christmas songs, because as I mentioned, that my name means Christmas. So that it should pull up under that.
Okay, let me cast this to the studio TV. We got Chasing Time featuring Luke Shoemaker. Is this open right now? Like, or so it's yes, people can search for it, but are you really pushing it online or anything?
I haven't really started. I mean, yes, I have pushed it some online. But I haven't started a major marketing campaign just yet. And, a lot of people would say, well, why are you not pushing it? Well, I'm just now getting started.
Soft open.
Yeah, soft open. Because the record for 2020, that's a big day, right? That's your
like
birthday.
Yeah.
That's when this
it's Hitler's birthday too, might I add. But hey, this brings balance.
Yes.
Good and evil. That's the universal concept. We were just talking about evil earlier. So, all right, I'm just going to press play. Just give me some commentary on this. The audience can't hear this. Only we can hear this.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure they can hear coming out of our headphones into the mic a little bit.
Right. Well, this, is one of those things that I had the musical content wrote probably about a year and a half ago. And my buddy Luke, he really felt the music, like he could really feel it. Well, he went through a personal experience where he had lost his uncle, and he was very close to him. And so we kind of mold around these different ideas about how in life sometimes we do everything we can to like chase time or to try to keep certain things from happening or whatever. Well, that's not really necessarily healthy for us. We should just enjoy the moment. We should enjoy the moment and the experience and be thankful for the time that we have with those loved ones, And so this is like basically saying I'm done chasing time. I'm not going to try to compete with that side of things. I'm going to enjoy the moments and the people that I love well I can.
That's big, man. That's something that's like in therapy and counseling about, like, because it's a negative thing to be like, we'll make it to December and then things will, be easier. Or if I could just get to this date.
Right.
But you're like, 4 more months and we'll be past this. Mm-hmm. And that is a pessimistic way of thinking. But until I became aware that was maybe experience, life circumstance or whatever make you arrive at that personally. But I've had some recent experience with that thought myself.
Yeah. So that's kind of the whole concept behind all of it, and this is like what happened is, say he primarily wrote most of the lyrical content. Well, then at one point in time, we're all sitting in a studio, me, him, and Rob, the producer, and then so I'll add a line, or Rob will add something, and so it's a collective. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's not one of those things to where I'm going to be like, well, no, I'm the dude writing the lyrics, and you can't do this. Like, I want each person that comes into this to write their lyrical content of what they feel that the music is, having them vibe off of. Because then if it's something they feel, then they're going to interpret it so much more genuinely, and there's going to be so much more emotion and everything to it. So, I do have lyrical content for the whole record if I want to utilize that, but I'm enjoying seeing what they come up with.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting. That's what, like with collaboratives or collective work. I'm hoping that like without Dylan's getting involved with the podcast, like I've encouraged him and some other people close to him. I'm like, dude, like do your own show.
Yeah.
Well, I don't care. Like, you know how many hours it's going to be sitting there not getting used?
Yeah.
You know,
like utilize it.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit. The first thing I remarked on when you emailed me this, and just seeing it on maybe social media, was your artwork here. What's the story behind that?
Actually, believe it or not, part of the artwork was a picture that I found online that I was able to utilize, you know, like I was telling you about the Adam Jones thing earlier with Tool. Was able to take the original piece and change it to what I wanted to present. Part of it, obviously, you have the ocean and like the earth. Well, one night there was a really cool eclipse, so the two light spots were actually real life pictures that I took of the moon eclipsing.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I blended those in, and it's just kind of like, you know, the ocean can be calming to us, but you see all the cracks in the earth.
I know. That's a fascinating contrast.
So, it's kind of that, you know, we'll have those soothing, that peace, even though we've got a lot of cracks, you know, in could be our souls or, you know, emotionally, whatever. And then the basically the eclipse moons are showing that there is a light, you know, there
shining through. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So that's basically why I chose to design that way.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it, man. I like it. I listened to it the other day in the car on the way home when you sent it to me. That's why I thought it was on YouTube. But like that was
Cool.
good. We didn't have to go back to the email. I get so many emails. I get them and then I consume them like that one. Like I consume that one, and then it gets buried the next day.
Yep.
And sometimes it's hard to find. So. Well, man, any plugs you want to give or anything before we wrap up? Any shout outs, anything like that? Where can people hear more about you, what you got going on?
All the social media sites, of course, Facebook, Instagram. You know, we do have a From Day One music website. But shout out wise, you know, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's listening and supportive. Go out there, go inspire people, you know, show love, go attend shows, go, you know, like somebody's post of what they're trying to do, you know, just support people in general. Which my daughters might not be listening, but I'll give a shout out to Aurelia and Juliana, and then a friend of mine, Misty, if she's listening. But anyways, I just I don't know, it's pretty fascinating. You think about the life that we get to live. A lot of times we have a tendency to try to look at the negative, but we should focus on the positive of what we have. Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up, man.
Yeah, it is.
It sure is. It's because, you know, it can be a grind.
Yeah.
It really can. You know, like I was like out of nowhere, like things are going kind of good. And then bam, out of nowhere, my dad had a heart attack.
Oh my
gosh,
week, dude.
This week. Like just, I mean, he'd had a health scare like 18 months ago or something with his blood pressure. But dude, other than that, I remember one time when I was a kid, my dad was sick and I woke up and he was like laying on the couch and didn't go to work. And I was like, what's going on, Dad? Like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And he was watching Dirty Dozen on TV. Remember that old war movie?
Yep.
And he's just like, I woke up, I'm super sick, I was throwing up. And that is the only time I ever, other than he like injured his back or shoulder when I was in high school when he stayed home from work like one day because he's jacked up, ended up having surgery later and stuff. But like physically couldn't walk, like, or it was his back that time, and then he had some shoulder surgery. So it's like over time he's gotten older, but like other than him being in the hospital and he had shoulder surgery around that same time, but this, he had a widowmaker, man, like 95% blockage, had a heart attack, took 2 nitros and an aspirin, and they got him to the hospital and in ICU.
Whoa.
Yeah, dude, that same thing happened to Kevin Smith.
Really?
Silent Bob.
I did not know that, man.
The longest podcast Joe Rogan ever did was right after Kevin Smith's heart attack. I cried like 3 times.
I imagine so.
They start talking about their dogs dying, dude.
Oh, man. That's going to pull them out of me and pull the tears out.
Are you a dog owner?
I don't have a dog currently. I have had several dogs.
Man.
And I'll get one eventually again, but I want to get my yard fenced in too, so that
so they can dig out.
Yeah, so they can try to dig out.
Well, just to brace you, there will be dogs on the other side of that door. Hicks and Mr. Pupper Man, as we call him, probably right there.
Right on.
So
I really appreciate you having me on too.
Hey,
man.
thanks, man. In the future, keep me posted on things. I don't know. I didn't think about having you on sooner, honestly, because I'm always looking for guests, and you're just like right there. I come into contact with you frequently, but in what you've been coming to the gym for over a year now.
Over a year.
Yeah. Yep. So but man, we'll keep chatting and keep in touch, and I'm always, if you have anything new coming up, just feel free to have it. This could be your plug.
I will, man, and we'll have to get together and play some music too.
Hey, yeah, for sure, that would be great, man. I love I don't get to jam with people a whole lot, and when I do, I always learn something.
Yeah.
And then that changes what I do. So
very cool.
All right, man. Signing off. Appreciate your time.